So let's talk about contouring. This is a photograph that I took, and on day 3, I am going to talk about contouring because I do a lot of contouring in Photoshop. And I do exactly what she's going to do to the face in post. So here's the thing. Contouring, and I'm going to say it my way, and then I'm going to say what she says. For me, when I'm doing contouring in Photoshop, I am adding dimension to the face. So I'm making the cheekbones look higher by putting shadows under the bottom of the cheekbones here. Put shadows underneath the cheekbones, highlights on the top. So the shadows and the highlights make them pop out a little bit more. You add a little bit of highlight on the nose and on the forehead. You darken down around here. I also will sometimes darken around the jawline because it makes the jaw look a little bit more defined. A couple other things that I'll be able to show you is I sometimes put highlights right here, a little bit of shadow right under the lips. So that makes them look fuller because it's a little bit darker. So basically what I'm doing in Photoshop is I'm lightening and darkening areas of the face to make the face have more dimension and more shape. Now, the reason that it's extremely helpful as well for when I'm working with a makeup artist is she will say to me, what type of lighting are you doing? If I'm doing very glowy, flat light, I need a lot more contouring because I don't have my light to shape the face anymore. If it's going to be totally, totally flat, the face is going to look flat. It's not going to have that pop. So we go heavier on the contouring to give dimension to the face. So if you are working with a makeup artist, contouring is the best part and it helps you out, specifically if you're going with much more of a flat light look to try to give you that professional pop. So what is your take on what contouring is, makeup-wise?
Precisely, you hit it on the nose. It's going to add dimension to the skin. You're going to be able to bring out the areas on somebody's face that are the most flattering and help to disguise areas that could use a little disguising. So, such as, under the jawline. Like she said, that's a great area. A lot of women, even women who are very thin, feel like they have a double chin. So this is going to help to shadow that area. Bringing out the cheekbones, making the under eyes really bright, all of those things, adding more dimension. I like to contour in order to bring all the attention pretty much right here. I call this area, this is the triangle of light. I never want to add any darkness into that area. That's what I want to stand out the most.
And I have a ton of contouring on my face right now. A lot. So maybe tomorrow I'll do before after and post it on Instagram so you can see. Now you have to hold me to it. It's Lindsay Adler _photo. So just you can give an idea of how the contouring makes a really, really big difference, especially since I'm under these bright lights and I'm being filmed. So I would really disappear, which is why it's funny. The other day someone said to me, I posted a picture of myself on Instagram and someone's like, oh my God, I've never seen you with red lips. I only wear red lips when I'm on screen, when I'm live, because it pops so I don't just recede into the background. So it's a little bit different in that way. What else would I like to say about this? You can use this guide for yourself, and I actually have this available as a download if you purchase the class, so you can kind of get an idea of where you might want to contour, whether it's for makeup or whether it's in post. Anything else about contouring?
I guess the one thing is the idealized face shape is an oval. It's a thin oval. So when you're contouring, typically you want to look at the face and go, okay, if that's square, where am I going to add shadows and highlights to create a little bit more of an oval face?
I remembered something I was going to say.
Yeah.
And I think that you do this in makeup as well. If somebody has, for example, like a bump in their nose, in Photoshop, I'll actually darken down around and then make the highlight look straight so you don't see the bump. Do you do the same thing with makeup?
I do, yeah.
So it's all kind of the same thing, but getting it done in camera gives you a lot better quality. It's much more realistic. And when you have shadows, it eats the light more, so it is actually adding dimension to the face versus just doing it in post. So we're gonna take some questions in a minute. I'm gonna get set up. Would you take a seat here? I'm going to light her really flatly, kind of more ethereal-like, and take a quick shot, and then she's just going to show you what contouring would look like. So you want to make this request to your makeup artist for sure. And as she's doing this, we're both happy to take questions. You can ask her questions makeup-wise, me, whatever you'd like. And yeah, I think we'll get started with that. So let me grab my camera and stuff.
Any questions in the studio audience? Go ahead and raise your hands. Yeah.
As far as trying to find out, or if a makeup artist is trying to think of a way to ask this question, but I mean, you're gonna have different types of skin.
Yes.
And to I don't know, how would you convey that to a makeup artist? Say, hey, you know, this is what I'm looking for, but them not quite knowing exactly, or I'm not explaining it well enough. I mean, is there some type of
Not knowing what kind of skin your client's gonna
right,
have?
or what to ask, or what to convey to the makeup artist to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, because I know nothing about makeup, but
Sure.
I want to be able to talk to them in makeup terms.
Yeah. I think that there's some really good basic terms to use, such as dewy, matte. You know, those are good. That's good to know. Do you like a matte skin? Do you like a dewy skin? Do you want contouring? How much coverage do you want? Do you want the foundation to look really natural, or are we going to go for something a little bit fuller today? I think that's kind of some basic information, and then getting down and obviously talking about color and what you're looking for there. So typically using that you can talk about that in really artistic form, you know, like as, you know, I want to use very contrasting colors and bright and vibrant and things of that sort. Is that answering your question?
Right, and also, I mean, as far as like, because you would, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm asking the right thing in case there's like a fair-skinned person versus a black person versus,
Yes.
you know, a brown person. So I'm
Right.
not trying to put, you know, fair-skinned makeup on a dark person to make them, you know, to have it where it fits.
I can tell you what I do. I've kind of two things on this. First of all, I of course always provide mood boards, kind of what I'm looking for. But I just flat out ask, do you have a kit and are you comfortable with doing makeup on dark skin? Because I've had makeup artists that for some reason don't know how to do makeup on dark skin. And so, or don't have quite the right kit. So I always communicate and try to provide a photograph of the subject right away, because if they didn't bring the correct foundations, they literally can't do the makeup. In fact, so I photograph a lot of extremely dark-skinned subjects. I love very, very dark skin to photograph. Some makeup artists don't have colors that go that dark, seriously, because it's not in their normal kit. So I show them who the subject is, or I let them know that this is a very dark skin tone, so that they can go out and prepare for the shoot. So I just blatantly tell them, like, this is a dark-skinned person. You need to be prepared with what you need to do their makeup. I'm going to have them, I don't have it now, but I'll drop this in tomorrow, or maybe later, a link to, it's a makeup artist wrote it, for how photographers should communicate with makeup artists. So it's like, I think it's like a $7 ebook or something like that that might be really, really useful. So it'll be out there. I think maybe tomorrow. Did you have a question?
Would you offer makeup for a guy? Like say you had a senior guy, would it kind of be like a case by case, like depending on how their face, or would it?
The only things I ever did for high school seniors was some of that essentials kit. So it was blotting papers and things like that. And I did have like little, I would say, do you want me to cover anything up, and just really casual, but most of the time I skipped it. When I do my fashion and portrait shoots, yeah, I still always have makeup, but I would say maybe for the average person, they're less comfortable as a guy. Yeah, so, yes.
I do have a question about like the glossy or the oily skin.
Yes.
If I don't have a makeup artist present, is there a way to get rid of that in post? Because I've looked up different ways and nothing seems to work.
Yes, definitely. I will show you on day 3. But
Okay.
the blotting papers, if you can have those, it makes a huge difference, because it's literally a thin piece of paper and you just pat it
Right.
and it soaks up the shine. If you can do that, it'll help you a lot. But I know like the situation where you go out in the sun, they got sweaty, you didn't want to blot them every 10 seconds because you don't want them to feel super awkward that they're super sweaty, and then now you have these super blown out highlights. Also, we're going to talk about oily skin tomorrow as well, but sometimes direction of light makes a difference. But yeah, I have a couple things that I do in post. And shooting in RAW helps to bring that down. And that's also something I liked about shooting a phase, is because it has a huge dynamic range. I can pull those highlights way down. But we'll take a look at with 35 millimeter. And I'm going to have her take more questions. I'm going to shoot really flat. So if you can see here, what I did is I photographed flat light, softbox above, white reflector underneath. So she's got a nice shaped face anyway, but I photographed it pretty flat. So I'm gonna take 2 pictures. I'm gonna do one like this. Yes, please, thank you. Thank you. And then can you do me a favor and turn your head? Perfect. So, would you like to begin with contouring? Absolutely. And feel free to let them know what you're doing, and then we can still field questions as she's doing that. We've got plenty of time.
Okay, so I always start with a really, really light color, a white. For her, I might do a mixture of these 2 light colors. I like to do a highlight first. So first, I'm going to assess her face shape and see what we're going to do, where I'm going to add highlights, or basically what you saw on the image there. So I'm just going to start, and if you guys have specific questions, please let me know.
And you'll actually be able to see basically what I did in that drawing. Like, I don't know how to do makeup at all, but I use makeup contouring guides for my retouching all the time. So you're adding highlight to the center of the forehead, so that on the nose line?
Correct, and then down the center of the nose.
Triangle of light.
Amen, there you go.
Okay. And what kind of foundation are you using?
It's Makeup Forever. This is a pro palette, so you do have to get it in store. It's not available online, but they can ship it.
And if there's not a store or they don't buy, where else, what other brands have you used?
I love Dermablend, and like there's great Ben Nye, Kryolan, Graftobian is another great one that I love.
Yeah.
A good cream typically is my preference.
So you use cream over powder. I don't know anything about makeup, so I'm actually sincerely asking these things. Yes.
Do you recommend, regular foundation or airbrushed?
I'm personally not a fan of airbrush makeup. It's a personal preference. I've tried it before, and I feel like I have more control with a traditional hand-applied foundation. But I have a very good makeup artist friend who loves airbrush, loves it, and uses it all the time, and her clients love it. So I really feel like that's a personal preference.
So you just did a little bit of highlight on her cheeks there?
Starting on the cheeks, yeah.
So
we did under the
this area.
chin. Now we're gonna get the cheek area and underneath the eye.
So even if you guys don't plan on doing makeup, keep this in mind for your retouching, basically. Oh, I had an interesting thing that I wanted to mention. So really, really strange that I was like, whoa, earlier. She put on a primer on me that she squeezed in her hand, and it was green. She put green on my face. Okay, would you explain why?
Yes, because you did have some redness in your skin this morning, and the green is actually going to, if we use our basic color theory, right?
Yep.
The green is going to counteract the redness. So using that first before foundation, I can use less foundation because I won't need it for as much color correcting.
So make it the foundation less cakey, and instead it was just a base to fix the color, yeah?
Correct.
So for someone that has a lot of redness to the skin, maybe recommending they look up a green color primer. I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. But she literally squeezed it, and it's bright green, and I was like, okay.
So your face was literally gelled?
It was what?
Gelled?
It's like a green.
Foundation
You get it.
primer. Yeah,
What do you
so it's
say?
kind of like a
Yes. So I missed the giant photo nerd joke. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm slow today. Yes.
Now, I know with a lot of, I guess lighter skinned black people, they have a seriously red tone to their skin. So
Yes.
would you use the same thing for that? If you're trying to take some of the red out of their skin?
I would not, actually.
Because they have a lot more red in general, so all of a sudden you'd
Yes.
be changing the actual color of their skin, would be my
Precisely.
impression. So you would just go heavier on foundation in that case?
I would, yep.
Yeah. It's funny, because even if I'm photographing darker skinned people with the color checker, sometimes I look at their skin, I'm like, it's so red. Well, it actually was, but because we were talking in person, I'm not noticing it, but it photographs red to the camera. So sometimes I'm making tweaks in post to the red channel and just kind of pulling out a little bit of saturation or tweaking the reds more, by adding a little bit more yellow. So it's going a little bit more yellow instead of red, whatever's most pleasing to the eye. And that's the hard part about skin, is that I'm going to tell you how to get it how it really is, and then how to improve it. But of course, there's always the, like, what looks best to you kind of thing. Okay, looks good. Do you have any questions in general out there in the internet? Makeup or otherwise, I'm happy to field any questions that are out there while she's doing this. And how long does a contour usually take?
5-7 minutes tops.
Okay, I'm okay with that. So I should be able to look like this every morning when I walk out of the house?
Exactly.
It's exciting. I have to do this. Not really.
So Lindsay, there's questions about natural light.
Yeah.
Birdwoman said, so you apply 25% more makeup if you're planning to use artificial lights. If you were shooting in natural light, do you still need to apply more to make it show properly?
Nicole?
Yes. However, you're going to go lighter
Exactly.
on a contour with natural light than you would in flash photography.
And
that make sense?
and I usually do, like, I tend to like when I'm directing a makeup artist, if it's supposed to look natural, I wouldn't go with as, like she says, like the harder contours, because you can seem to tell it a little bit more, because the natural light doesn't have, like, you know, the natural light doesn't carve out the cheeks like that, versus in studio, you can be like, oh, it's the studio light. And I also tend, if it's supposed to be natural, to go with lighter tones in general, like not really crisp, unless I'm doing avant-garde fashion photography, and then I do what I want.
To extend on that question, would the contouring also depend on the time of day? So, like, say you're shooting at noon, if you even, I don't know why you would, but like, you're shooting at that time of day where it's really harsh, or versus later in the afternoon when the sun's starting to set and it's a little bit softer.
Well, what I try to do to tell my makeup artist is I try to say, like, for example, I'll say, we are shooting in direct sunlight. I have this editorial that I love. I can't show you yet because it's not published, but I shot it. It's all lit by the sun in the desert in Dubai. But I told the makeup artist, I'm not using flash, I'm not using reflectors. She's going to be lit by the sun in every shot. So I was trying to communicate that to her, and I kind of left it up to her. So I just tell them how I'm going to light. And it's, so my makeup artist always says, the first thing she says to me, she goes, what's the light going to look like? And what's the mood we're going for? So I show her kind of a picture, and she goes, oh, yes, yes, dewy. Oh, yes, yes, I need more contour. And so that's how she talks, yes, yes.
Lindsay, question here from Alan Birch, who is from Missouri, and asks, as a photographer, who is less experienced in the details of makeup artistry? Are there any telltale ways to see when you have a bad makeup artist?
Interesting. When I look at a makeup artist portfolio, the thing that photographers do wrong is instead of looking at the makeup artist's work, they look at the photography. The makeup might be amazing and the photography might suck. So you gotta, like, separate yourself. Just because it's a good or bad photo doesn't mean the makeup was good or bad. So what I try to look for is, does it look believable? Do I see any crisp lines? Does the colors seem to match? Does it look like the makeup is fitting the mood of that shot? Of course, the photographer could always have directed it incorrectly. I would definitely say this has come with practice, and also just random thing, coming up with ideas. Pinterest, I look for makeup on Pinterest, and then also there's a couple magazines in New York that show all the makeup on the runways, and it's not retouched, it's nothing, so you can actually see what the makeup looks like, and we use that for a lot of references in our studio. Okay, what's going on here?
Done.
Excellent. All right, let me take a photo. No, I didn't look. Did you contour any shadows?
Yeah, I did.
I wasn't watching.
I did.
I was
We got
watching,
under
I was
the
talking.
cheekbones, under the
Okay.
jawline, down the nose here, and
boundary
the
then.
forehead.
Yep, I had a boundary over here. We'll see how it photographs. I might have you go heavier.
Okay.
Sounds
good.
I will tell you, for portraits, that looks pretty good. When I do fashion editorials, like to the eye, it looks ridiculous. But the way that I usually shoot for contours, it's usually like, it's like perfect. Okay. All right, so let's take a look. All right, she looks very serious there. Okay, and perfect. Wait, not perfect. Should have flashed. Try one more time. Great, and then can you turn your head to the side again? All right. And then can you bring up the before straight on and the after straight on? And that kind of thing. Okay, so she's got a little bit more contouring there. Can you do the side one as well? And we go to a little bit heavier. Yeah. Like carve out even a little bit more. Did I change my exposure? It's looking a little bit exposure changey. But I see that she's got more cheekbones there for sure. So I'm gonna tell you, just go heavier. Okay. Give it a little bit more intensity. Done. Okay, perfect. Okay.
I have had an experience working with a makeup artist where she was not communicating or understanding what I was saying. Even like my models were understanding like what I was trying to tell her, and we're just like, no, you're doing this wrong. So what can you do in those kinds of situations, or what's the best way to kind of like say, this is not working, let's start over, or figure out how to correct that?
Yeah, so a big one for me, and this is no offense, still love me, I just have to say something. I have found on photo shoots that most of the artists, including makeup and hair, everybody has an ego because they're artists and this is their art. And so often when you tell people something is wrong, they're like not happy with you at all. So I kind of tried to nudge at first. I start with the nudge. Yeah, I don't think that will translate correctly. Remember the camera thing? I'll say, you know what? I don't think that's translate correctly. I think that color is going to be a little bit too harsh for the mood we're going for, or you know what? I don't think that's going to quite show up the way that we're looking for. Okay, if that doesn't work, I shoot whatever they did. I shoot it for a few frames. I said, looks good, but let's make a little change. And so I shoot it so that they feel like they were validated, that I respected their art, and then we move on and we don't use that photo. It's true. Yes?
Do most makeup artists know how to work with photography?
So I think that this is a really good question. I wanted to ask you did you just figure this out from experience?
Yes.
Because not always. In fact, this is something that I look for, is I don't look for people that do specifically makeup for weddings or just pretty everyday makeup, because it's not heavy enough for photography. And if you look at, so the makeup artists I use in New York a lot, and as well, definitely look at Nakoma's work, but the makeup artists I work with in New York, her Instagram is Griselle, M-U-A, so Griselle, M-U-A, makeup artist. And you'll see the way that she contours to the Instagram photos even, it looks almost ridiculous, like how much, but it photographs perfectly. There's another woman who I've met and worked with a couple times that she's really good with dark skin tones. Her name's Teresa Francine, and if you check out her Facebook, she transforms completely, and it's heavy. It's really heavily done, but it looks beautiful. So yeah, not everybody knows how to do it, and so I try to see some sample of what they've done, because yeah, just pretty everyday makeup doesn't quite work. Okay. Oh, that'll show up even more. Cool. All right, so I'll probably take a couple shots of this and wrap up. So if there's any questions on that, then I'll move on and spend a few minutes talking about retouching.
So Lindsay, there's been quite a few questions about what to look for in a makeup artist portfolio. A question from I am Howard Lee and several other people. When you're looking at people's websites, what are you looking for exactly?
All right, let me do this. And then, so I'll tell you what I'd look at this shot if I photograph this. I'm definitely coming back to that, so just hold 1 sec.
Take your time.
So something I'd look at in these shots is I definitely like the cheekbone, but I would say, okay, I can see the contouring on the nose, and so I'd say, could you just blend it a little bit more? And that's not a big deal. So could you blend the nose in just a tiny bit more? And then can you go back to the straight on? But I'm not looking at her face, I look at the photo, because it's not the same. It probably can look really, really harsh on the face and then be totally fine in the photograph. So yeah, I think the cheeks are much better, maybe a little bit, tiny bit blended on the right bottom. Okay. But this looks much better. That is much more of a cheekbone there. I like the shape on the nose. I see kind of a line there. And that's probably about it. So I shoot it and we make tweaks. And that's why I set my light up. I have a look, we have a conversation, and then I say, okay, we're ready to shoot. What I'm looking for in a makeup artist portfolio, for me in particular, I mean, usually what I'm looking for is makeup that fit the mood, or that like is correctly, is really showing the best attributes of that subject. Like if the makeup looks like the girl had a large nose and the makeup drew even more attention to it. Like I'm just trying to see like how did they work with that person's face. I don't have a really good answer because I wasn't always good at it, because I always looked at the photography, not the makeup. So I had to get better. For me, generally, glitter in a portfolio is a dead giveaway to stay away. In general, not always. And a lot, for me, like a lot of costume that comes across, I'm just gonna say this, if it comes across kind of drag queenish, that usually is like they don't know the line there, so I'm looking for those things. So I'm looking for enough to fit the mood, but not so much that it looks like costume. It's a practice thing. All right, let me take another shot of that, and I think we're all good with this. So, oh yeah, sorry. Perfect. Good, and turn to the side for me. Great. Okay. So, yeah, like that looks much more contour straight on. So would you compare that one and the first one for me? And I think we'll be all set. So I'm starting to give her like a little bit more shape to the face, a little bit more dimension. And my white balance does not match, so I think that would make a difference. What's my white balance on? Did it reset when the camera died? Is that why? I don't know if it... Yeah, maybe, yeah, I have to white balance it. Actually, can I do one with my color checker? And so then I can include this like in the presentation so you can see when it's all matched up. I'll do one color checker shot. All right, so after this, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna spend a couple minutes, not long at all, a couple minutes talking about retouching and how I decide how far is too far. But we're doing, day 3 is the hands-on part. Perfect. Good. All right, so we'll be able to give you an idea of how this contouring makes a difference.